Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. It's Friday night. It's time for another edition of All Politics Are Local, America's number one hip hop talk show.
It's New Year's Eve, man. We're going live on New Year's Eve.
How about it? The last day of the long, arduous year that is 2021, and we have some several New Year's Eve or year-end roundups to take a good look at what we need to appreciate having come through this very difficult year. In the first hour, we will include a very special guest, and he's been with us before, Mr. Leroy Jones, the head of the New Jersey State Democratic Party. Towards the end of the show, we'll have on the activist front a year in review from none other than Lawrence Hamm of the People's Organization for Progress. Unfortunately, we lost an incredible pioneer in the anti-violence movement in our community with the loss of the great Earl Street Doctor Best, the Street Doctor. We'll have a special segment dedicated to the Street Doctor. And we'll have a few minutes.
I was getting ready to say, I don't think a lot of people really know about the Street Doctor in terms of all the stuff he did. That's why I'm glad.
I beg to differ with you, sir.
No. I mean, I think
everybody knew Street, but to your point.
But I think that I don't think enough people know about his life, what he's been through, what he's done. Like, I think a lot more people need to know who he is. He was outside the area. Like, his story is inspiring.
And we're going to take all of that apart with several special guests who will join us for that particular roundup. Street is a Newark original who did some pioneering things that are very important for all of us to appreciate on the anti-violence front that we'll unpack, as Jonathan just described, right? And then finally, we'll have a few minutes with before we wind up with our hip hop roundup with the world's greatest DJ, our own DJ Rhino.
Well, we forgot about one really important part.
I'm coming to it.
Okay.
We're also going to have a roundup on the clear and present dangers and the new dimensions that we have with COVID-19 with one of our beloved community physicians, Dr. Chris Pernell. So we got a loaded show on this last evening of the year, and we'll hope it'll lay the groundwork for a profound forthcoming new year. So we want everybody to look forward, buckle up, and get ready to ride. It's Friday night, and it's time for another session of All Politics Are Local.
Number one political hip hop radio talk show. So and streaming for you. So Leroy Jones, thank you so much for coming on. You have been a supporter of our show from the very beginning. You were one of our first guests over 10 years ago on the show.
Right.
So we are so glad to have you back. You are now the chair of the Democratic Party in New Jersey, and it's been a year. It's been a year.
6 months. 6 months. 6 months.
Okay. All right. Yes. 6 months
on the post. You talk about it been a hell of a year.
It's been a tough year, right? Like
it's been a tough 2 years, man.
So what's going on? So how would you talk about these 2 years, these last 2 years, and especially this year?
Well, I mean, we all know we've been ravaged by COVID, and that's been pretty much the number one concern of people in New Jersey, people in the United States, people around the world for that matter. And we've been encouraging people to test, to get vaccinated, to get boosted. And we're still in the midst of yet another variant, Omicron, which we see extended degree of concern with that. There's more positivity rates, lines for testing are out the door. People are seemingly, paying attention to, the need to get vaccinated and get boosted. But there's still quite a few, thousands of people that, have not, gotten their vaccinations, and they're contributing, actually to the spread, and they're when they are impacted, their health is, more compromised than those that have been vaccinated. So I'm encouraged by what we see here in, in Essex County and Newark, actions by, the county executive, who's been relentless, Joe DiVincenzo,
Bringing calls to
here.
my phone every day.
Yeah, there you go. Our own mayor, Raz Baraka has, instituted, mandates around the city, to help, curb the spread, and, right here, my home, East Orange, Ted Green, mayor has just been, vigilant, as, we continue collectively to fight, this scourge of COVID. So that's been the number one thing, man. And, I'm just, concerned about, people's health. Members of, all politics of local, have, had their bouts with this,
Donna, Zaid.
Yeah. Bashir.
Right, Bashir.
Look, we're, I'm hoping that, we see this spike in this, hopefully within the next, 3 weeks or so. And, we can see a decline in, in positivity rates and, hopefully a moving away from this. But, life has gone on.
Right. But one thing I want to just jump in on, when you're talking about New Jersey is Democratic controlled, right? Had a close election. And some people said that like some of the pundits were like, it was the COVID response that made the election so close. And the mandates that you're talking about, is the Democratic Party in trouble with mandates, with things like that? Are they becoming more and more unpopular?
No, I don't think so. There was a response in the election to COVID, but more so from from individuals that seemingly struggle with trying to comply with mandates, trying to comply with wearing masks, want to fight that. Want to avoid the vaccination process. Sometimes want to avoid testing, and it's been that side of the Republican Party, and that's where you saw the wave of opposition to to this statewide election, with Governor Murphy. Governor Murphy met his Democratic targets. Even exceeded them, in various places. But, this red wave that came about, was, for the, that helped the opposition party, see numbers that they weren't, seeing, in the past. And that largely, was contributed to, COVID, individuals down, particularly in places like Southern New Jersey, where they depend on, tourism, where you were subject to restaurant closures, mask mandates, as school children, with mandates to wear masks, at home learning, was a big challenge. I saw that, firsthand during the election, in certain parts of the state, and I got an opportunity to travel, up and down, 95, and clearly you can see, there's two New Jerseys, one that are is closely concentrated on just people's public health, and another New Jersey that seems to be in defiant of it. So it became COVID became a political statement. I mean, you could see people who don't, honor masks, and you can kind of tell, what their political affiliation is. I was in the mall today, and I could clearly see that.
No, the question I have, especially New Jersey, right, like where Democrats outnumber Republicans by a large amount, is what we're seeing a red surge of red Republicans, or are they just Democrats that are choosing to go another way, right? Like a lot of Democrats voted for Christie, a lot of Democrats, right, especially in those southern parts. Is this a partial, is what we're seeing part of a split in the Democratic Party, or are they just registering more Republicans?
No, I don't think you see a split in the Democratic Party at all. I mean, if you recall what I just, shared with you, our vote goals, for the Democratic Party were exceeded, in most of the places that, we see Democratic, prowess. What we saw was that red wave of Republicans that, had, not been engaging in the election process. And then, you have a number of unaffiliated voters also that, and this is, and you have to look, geographically up and down the state. And that's where you saw a surge in, what we've deemed as a red wave, a response that, was anti-COVID. But also, when you look at what was going on in, around the country with, the president's Build Back Better bill, the reconciliation bill, the Afghanistan situation, which, just left an ugly visual, across, the world. Those all, played a part in, what we saw in this red wave. We're in the process now of, just kind of drilling down, through, our own internal polling, as well as, taking a deeper dive into focus groups to really try to figure out, where the hot buttons were, where people were, really concerned about, and whether or not we need to recalibrate our messaging.
That's part of actually a fun part of well, for me, a fun part of looking at post-election analysis. Now, when you're talking about like the focus groups and polling in terms of what works and what does not work, can you give us a little bit about the process of that? Like what's going on? How long does it usually take? And do you use like academics or is it just internal demographics?
No, I mean, it's very scientific. It's a little bit of all of that. It's polling is just reaching out and and calling Democratic voters, unaffiliated voters that lean democratically, having a specific set of questions to determine what voting patterns and voting behavior is going to be. Asking specific questions about, the candidates. And, and I think, in all honesty, I think a little bit of our Democratic polling kind of missed, the intensity of what we saw, in terms of, the red wave. The Republican Party had gotten it a little bit better in their polling. At one point, our polling was telling us, as well as other independent polls, that Governor Murphy had a 10-point plus lead in the polls, whereas Republican pollsters had it at about a 3 or 4 point margin, and there's also a margin of error there of plus or minus 3 points. So we got to get, we have to take a deeper dive into, the psyche of voters now, and, understand, what moved voters, during this election, what perhaps didn't move them, that's where the focus group is going to, kind of drill down. It's going to be more, in depth. It's going to be more direct. It's going to be more watching people's body language, when they're in, the focus groups, talking about, what moved them, what concerned them, how they feel about, the societal issues that, we're dealing with now.
One thing I want to ask about is, like all over the country, there have been Republican legislatures making voting more difficult. In New Jersey, for the first time, voting was easier. Early voting. I voted a couple of days early. Just walked a couple of blocks from the school where I teach, voted, came back, right? Is early voting, are we going to find that early voting helps everybody, right? Like in your polling, are you finding that early voting was also helping the red wave? Like if everyone has greater access to the vote, it seems like everybody has access to the vote, right? Like Republicans seem to like fear more people voting, but did these measures actually help them as well?
Yeah, well, the early voting did help. It was a nuance, right? So, so anything new, people have to get time to, get accustomed to, have to assimilate to. It's almost culture change. Republicans don't participate in early voting. They don't participate in vote by mail. They are election day voter. That's the long and the short of it.
And was
Uh,
that true also in this election, like in New Jersey? Were
absolutely,
they? Okay.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Being the fact that we recognize that we've opened up opportunities for people to vote. 9 days of early voting. Continuous, vote by mail throughout the election process, and then the crescendo on the final day of the election day itself. So we were able to, and that's a strategy that we're going to continue to use. Early voting is going to continue to be something that is more convenient for people to exercise their vote. They're going to get more comfortable with that in the future. We're going to perhaps direct them to the ease of how you can vote early, and where you can vote early. But and that's been a good method for us to capture votes very early. We've been able to, in this past election, we banked a number of early votes, whether they were through the actual machines on those 9 days of early voting, or the actual vote by mail. Where folks, we were encouraging people to get their ballots, send them back in. Those methods work very, very well within the Democratic party.
You muted, John.
Chairman.
John, look like you want to get in.
Yeah,
Yeah. Donna and Ty, do you have questions?
Hey,
Yeah,
Donna,
happy New Year, Chairman.
well, you're
Let
not
me
at a
have-
vaccine center, are you?
No,
not
sir.
Oh, okay.
No,
Still doing
I
that?
should be. No, I should be. No, they haven't done it, but with this new variant going around, we all should be there. So, yeah. But what I do want to ask you is that it seems that this candidate that ran against the governor, he was a little bit more outgoing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I do know of him. I've watched him over the years. He's very articulate. He used to be a more of a moderate kind of Republican, but based on how their party is kind of leaning these days along, closer to more conservatism. He had to kind of walk that tightrope. But he's a articulate guy. He's very learned. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. As we move into future statewide elections. He's already announced that he's going to seek another opportunity to win his party's nomination and ultimately try to win a statewide election for governor.
And then the Steve Sweeney. Were you shocked? Were you shocked?
Absolutely, I was shocked. I mean, that was the shocker of the nation, and not just the state, the nation. And that way, he lives right in the heart of of red New Jersey. He's been able to conduct himself as a conservative Democrat over the years, and he was able to win within a respectable margin. But his polling had him up 17 to 19 points right before election day. And then what happened? Boom, he got he got kind of caught flat-footed against a guy who has no political background, no political experience, no elected office experience, nothing. But that was part and parcel of that red wave that we talked about earlier.
And what I would say, that was a lesson for the Democrats to learn, because here's Steve Sweeney. He played the line. He played, both sides of the line, if you will. So you would have thought he would have been safe. But when it came out for them to support their candidate, they did that, even though he played it safe on both sides. So that was pretty, I was like, wow. I was like, ooh,
Yeah, it was one of those things, Donna. And look, there's lessons learned in everything, and that one was a clear lesson learned. As state chair, you don't get an opportunity to to drill down in those specific elections like that one. They're more county driven. But I'm a guy that you all know, I'm from East Orange. I'm still the Democratic chair in the city of East Orange, as well as the Essex County chair. And we just came through an election in East Orange where Ted Green and 5 council candidates, incumbents, were up for re-election. The primary, they had no opposition, but we ran a full-blown campaign because it was out of respect to to the voters. If you're asking for an opportunity to serve, then you should be out there telling people why you need to go back to continue to serve. And Ted ran along with his council running mates, we ran a campaign that was complete, as if there were, if it was a staunch opposition. We did mail, we did polling, we did digital. They went door to door. They, phone calls. They chased vote by mail ballots. Everything that would have been expected in a full blown campaign, we did in an unopposed campaigns because it was out of respect to the people, to the electorate that that would have returned them to office.
And a simple lesson is run every race like it's your first race. Do not take it for
Absolutely.
granted. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and I came in a little late. Did you talk about the I don't know if we want to call it gerrymandering or them redistricting? Have you talked about that yet?
No, we didn't get to that yet.
Okay.
So there's a lot of redistricting going on these days. We have the federal redistricting that just was just completed, which the Democrats won the map, and basically how that works. There's 6 Democratic commissioners, there's 6 Republican commissioners, and there is 1 independent member. And typically, it breaks down between Democrats supporting Democrats, on a map, Republicans supporting Republicans on their map, and then the independent member will side with, which party that he feels addresses all the conditions of a perfect map or near perfect map for the state of New Jersey. This map, that was a Democratic map, which focused on majority minority districts, which focused on fundamentally fair voting rights, and making sure that there was gender balance amongst the congressional delegation. The map looks like it's perhaps a map that Democrats can perhaps win in all of the districts that they currently have incumbents in. There's one district that is probably going to be a little bit steeper challenge, and that's the District 7, where Tom Malinowski. But right here in Essex County, we'll still have Congressman Payne in a majority African American district. We have Bonnie Watson Coleman back down in Middlesex and Mercer County with the same type of district, who's an African American female. Back here in Essex County, we have Mikey Sherrill, who has a more Democratic district than she had before. She hails from Montclair. And Albio Sirius district, which is a majority Latina district, which that district is still one that has the prowess of electing a Latino to the district.
Thank you.
One thing that when you're talking about redistricting, I mean, I thought that was interesting because it's a question that comes all over the country, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
What
I
were
mean, that was
like
the first.
Oh, you were saying?
Yeah, that was the first leg. Then there's a reapportionment redistricting process where this similar commission of 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans and 1 independent member will draw a map that basically lays out the next 10 years for the legislative representation up and down the state. I happen to be the Democratic chair of that that commission, and we've been into already 5 public hearings. There'll be 5 more left to go, we hope to come up with a consensus map by the first week in March or so.
And that's part of what I was asking, right? Like when you're talking about a consensus map, like you hear about like stories all over the country, like Texas, where they had a more Latino voters, but they had more white districts. It seems like the process that you're talking about, there's some principles it seemed like you were talking about. What are some of those principles that are there that would prevent New Jersey from being like Texas?
Well, we concentrate on the appropriate DPI, which is a Democratic Performance Index. We focus on Voting Rights Act that is the law of the land. There's also a test called the Stokes test, which measures constitutionality, and also it focuses on ensuring that all the principles of the Constitution, everything that is fair and equitable, as opposed to those gerrymandering efforts where you try to lump minorities all in one area, and then that allows for there not to be representation or the ability for minorities to run in districts beyond the ones that are just carved out for them.
Okay. So there's a Zaid or Donna, was that you jumping in?
Well, I'm let me go in a different direction.
Right? Not I.
Hey, what's up, man?
All right. Happy New Year, beloved. Let me ask a different question. One is, because I'm always, and this is the me becoming the elder organizer now, right? And trying to cultivate young talent to get involved and to begin to see themselves as trying to move into the process as candidates for office, right? Mm-hmm. Representing a new generation of folks coming forward. And one of the things that I'm wondering is just how is that done? One, that's just a basic question. But more than that, there's a concern as there's this push or in this red wave from the right that Democrats ought to push back from the left as opposed to moving towards the right to try and play it safe. So, just to try to unpack that, how do we see strategically how to bring in fresh blood into this process, right? With the energy that is associated with fresh blood, right? Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about losing ground in that way because folks say Democrats are playing it too safe, and the issues that we're concerned about in our generation are not being heard. Right? How do we bring that forward in a way that makes a difference so we don't lose any more ground?
Yeah. So Zayed, that's it gets back to the title of the show, right? All politics are local, right? And it is going to be you or us or me having a commitment to the community that I have an opportunity to represent from a democratic leadership standpoint. I am one that that believes in young representation, because that's the future. I just shared with you the whole redistricting process, which happens every 10 years. So so that is going to determine the leadership for the next 10 years. And we have to be mindful of the fact that when we're looking at the federal government, congressional seats, when we're looking at state legislative seats, these individuals are there for a long time. In some cases can be there for a long time. They have to create and establish rank order, and that is established over time. But the thing about that is that in order to have representation that is going to be effective, and your rank and your influence in those institutions are going to be respected, you got to build and bank the time in. So we have to be more vigilant as we groom young people to move into those spots, to create that path of longevity, so that influence is there, and they're able to create and change the course of legislation to impact the quality of life of the people that they represent. So it's a long-term process. You got to believe in this, and your work has to resemble resemble it in the truest sense. You got to be able to see it. I'm proud of what we've done in East Orange. I'm proud of what we've done around the county in terms of engaging young folks in the process. That's something that you hope that you'll be able to implement around the state. Talking to individuals, trying to influence them, to recruit to recruit that young talent, to be able to build that that bench going forward, because it's about tomorrow that we're all working for, and it's about those young people that I know you guys are always sharply focused on, that we have to be able to build that tomorrow for.
And is it, was I hearing correctly that basically, Leroy Jones, it seems like you are a political organizer, right? Like you organize people
that's what
politically
I
around
do.
the state.
I do what Diet does.
Right. Zaid is a community organizer, organizing people around the state, right? But it seems like seems like you're saying is that you're going to get the next part of your bench from the young people that Zaid is working with, or something like that, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I know that's what I want to see.
That's what you should be hearing.
I got some fascinating young folks that I'm working with all over the state, black, brown, and white, young, vibrant, informed, and that they're what we need,
Absolutely. I mean, there's going to be tomorrow, in East Orange, there's, the mayor's going to be sworn in for a second term, but what you got to pay attention to is, on the city council, there's going to be a young man, in his early 30s. His name is Christopher Alway, Chris is,
we got Chris on.
You have Chris on.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is going to ascend to chair the to be the chairman of the East Orange City Council. That's young leadership. That's that's the future. That's what people should be buying into. That's what people should be supporting. That's what people like myself, should be, grooming young people, to take those mantles of leadership just like that. He's going to be working hand in glove with Mayor Green. You want to turn the page to Newark and look at young lady that that we all know, LaMonica McIver.
Love a dearly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good young sister. Yes.
Brittany, look in the state legislature.
Brittany right on. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just it continues to move in a direction that we can all be proud of. It should be a lot more. It should be a tremendous amount more. But look, we got to take baby steps sometime, before we can start running. I'm not pleased, at all where we are, but I'm encouraged that, there will be younger folks, getting involved.
One of the things. I was going to say one of the things you talked about the last time you were on our show is the connection between policy and people, and how that was really important to you. You gave us your story last time. It was and thank you for that. Right, like anyone who didn't see the last interview should go back and see that interview. But I want to ask this last question for where we left off there, because one of the things you said is that issues matter, policies matter. So in the last 10 minutes that we have, can you talk some more about what were the achievements that helped people in 2021, and what can we look forward to, right, in 2022? Like, what are those things that are the result of all this political organizing?
Well, I mean, just look at where we are. Just look at the whole. There's a whole different mindset of how we support each other, how we live in the same space, how we focused on our health, as a result of COVID. I mean, that's been a big motivator in terms of how people are now responding in different kind of ways, how people are caring about people more, how policies are changing to be more focused on public health, how cultures are changing, how something as simple as wearing a mask or washing your hands can change your life. Those things, my dog is barking in the background for somebody. But those are the things
watch the clock for you.
That particularly black folks, because we have been ravished by this COVID thing. I mean, and it's we're we're getting vaccines free, we're getting tests free. There's food distribution that's been continued throughout the country, and certainly the state and the county. But at some point, those nothing's free, and we got to position ourselves, and folks that are like-minded have to position themselves to know how we're going to deal with paying for all this, in the not so distant future, and avoiding putting that burden on generations that are yet to be born.
So and I hear what you're saying, right? Where we are definitely going to have you. We still have more time. We're definitely going to have you back on to deal with that particular question, right? Because I think that's a question that's an entire show in and of itself, in terms of how do you what are those big things in the future that you have to deal with. There's one small thing, right? Not small, but significant, but there's a narrow thing that didn't get played well in the last year, and I want to see what you think about it for the new one. And that, of course, is the Civilian Complaint Review Board, that many, Black people in urban areas put the governor back. Mm-hmm. This has been a major complaint from both community activists, Mayor Baraka, activists like Larry Hamm and Zayn Mohammed. Mm-hmm. This has been an issue that people like Sweeney, who's no longer here politically, were pushing back against. Mm-hmm. Is there something that we could, because if Democrats coalesce behind this, we could get it passed,
right? And it could be groundbreaking.
Is there a strategy for it?
First, just
let me just piggyback on that, Chairman. And then also, if we go all the way up to the federal level, we have people who were very helped with a lot of the policies that came out, whether it was the checks that came out to help people get through those hard times. But when it came to turn around, a lot of those people didn't go out and vote. What do we need to do to civically engage and educate our community more, to connect the dots and say, hey, voting has consequences, as well as not voting has consequences, and bring our numbers up? Because I always say, as Essex County goes, so does the state of New Jersey. So what can we do to pull our numbers up? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I'm saying, especially in terms of
y'all threw a lot at me, right? So y'all threw a lot at me on that one.
Yeah,
That
there were two different questions
Let me-
there, but I want to make sure
let
you
me
deal
go
with the first one first, then the second. But remember, we only have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, so real quick, the civilian review, I'm a strong, supporter. Reparations reform, I'm a strong supporter. I don't know if you were down there, Zayed, when.
Oh yeah, I was down there. Yeah, I was down there. Okay. We saw you come out. It was good. That was good.
So, so look, there is a culture, in the State House, amongst folks that don't look like us, that don't understand, don't live in our shoes, and I don't know if it's correct to say that we got to do a better job, but we got to continue, to educate these folks that these are not policies that's adverse to, their quality of life. These are policies that benefit, certainly our communities, because, but it ultimately benefits them, they have to understand how and why. So, just something as, simple as, the reparations task force, folks understanding that they have to be able to say the word, to understand. We're not asking everybody to get a doggone check in the mail, although that my friend Larry Hamm, made a comment about that, when he addressed the.
He'll be on a little later.
But I know he's coming on later. That's my dude. But it's not about a check. It's about how we establish policies that correct and recalibrate the wrongs that were done for past years. Larry can give you the breakdown from 1650 to date on what went wrong. But and it is our moment and our time to fix now what went wrong for all those years and how to do that. We want to create better education policies. We want to create better housing. Those are the reparations that we're asking for, along with civilian review boards that monitor how law enforcement is administered, how it puts checks and balances on those unscrupulous individuals who consider themselves law enforcement officers, but are not, not doing it in the interest of people and protecting people, as opposed to abusing people. So, these are the things that, we still have work to do on. And, the Black Caucus, in Trenton is sharply, is all supportive, but, again, it takes 41 votes in order to get a bill passed in the Assembly, 21 in the Senate. That gets back to, us, being able to move and recruit younger people through the process, younger people that have a life experience, or parents who have a life experience, so that they can be a little bit more sensitive to these issues. And, and those, that gets you the majority votes that you need to move these, two pieces of legislation, as well as others.
I want to have you. Let me just jump in for a hot second, because we have this statewide coalition that's very multiracial and multi-generational around the police reform bill. At some point, I'd like to have you come in and give them a few minutes and some insights on what we could do, because some of that is happening, right?
Yes.
The very creation of that 10 years ago wouldn't have looked like that. It just wouldn't have looked like that.
Right.
But the fact that we're there now is something that we want to build in. The reparations community is the ecumenical side of the reparations community is almost majority white now.
Yes, it is.
Those of us
we have 1 minute left. We have the next segment, so we know we're wrapping this up. So
we're wrapping up.
Sorry.
We're definitely wrapping up. All right, so we unfortunately, but we want to definitely. We are so thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a supporter of All Politics and Local from the very, very beginning. Right.
Hey man, you guys got me on New Year's Eve. Not that I'm going anywhere, because I'm, we're still on lockdown. We ain't going nowhere. We're gonna celebrate here. I got to get up tomorrow, swear Ted Green in. But look, it's always a pleasure being on with you guys. Invite me back. I love this. I love to spend time with you guys. Donna, Zayed, John, all of you. Give my best to Ed. Bashir, Happy New Year's, everybody.
But Chairman, you gotta. But before
last
you
part,
leave, you gotta tell us what you're listening to. What are you
Exactly.
listening
I'm
to?
doing
What
Drake now. I'm doing Drake now.
Okay.
No, what'd you say?
Drake. He said Drake.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you so much. And it's been a
Happy New
pleasure.
Year, beloved. Good to see you. All right.
Wishing you and the family a happy holiday and a happy
Gotta
New
have a
Year.
better year.
And thank you for all that you do, sir.
Yeah,
right on.
Happy
Absolutely.
New Year, guys.
Okay.
All right, so we are getting ready to head to our next segment, and Zaid, I want you to introduce part of this next segment. We talked about it earlier. We talked about Street Doctor Earl Best passing away, and people don't really know all of the things that he did, right? All of the things that he did, and his background, his story, right? Like, and just looking at it, it is impressive. He helped a lot of people. So we're going to have a series of people on who are going to be talking and sharing stories about Street Doctor. So Zaid, can you introduce this segment, and then we're going to have people jump on and give their particular story about someone who is a hero in our community, and his story is a story with, I think, national implications, national significance, based on the stuff he did and based on what you have talked about.
Well, let me just put it this way. Looking at who we got on this screen here, and I didn't realize that we were going. Rockwell, I'm glad you're on. I didn't have your number, right? Barry, very pleasant surprise. Barry Carter here, formerly the legend, right? David Muhammad Marquise. Oh my goodness, where's Keisha and Dawn? All this testosterone.
We're trying, right? We're even now trying to get some more people on.
But that is a reflection of the range of Street Doctor's influence and impact on his community, right? All of us on the screen here wear different hats in this work, in our place in this community. But Street in his presence, right? It is very present, very energetic, very vibrant, very consistent in what he was about, touched all of our lives in our different spaces. Street Doctor, the white jacket, feeding the homeless. That was his beginning of his emergence as a personality among us on the community service front. But Street would also be at work sites, asking for more local and black and brown workers to be on work sites when we see construction going up in this town. And then more than that, when it came to this incredible violence reduction initiative work that Newark is becoming a model for, Street was way out in front of that, just a few minutes coming out of prison in 2000, right? Before the work of the mighty, and the emergence of the mighty Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, that's shutting streets down for 155 weeks. Before that, we had the Essex County Anti-Violence Coalition, centered in Essex County, but we were going from Trenton all the way up to Irvington and Orange, helping the communities respond to this challenge called gun violence that has been really having all of us on our heels when we don't like it, right? And then and then like I said, look at the range of folks on this particular response. All of us doing different kind of work, all touched by this work, and all touched by this brother who, in his originality and the genuineness of his soul, of his persona, had an impact on all of us. So I've said when we wrote about, we put our statement out with Street when he passed, that Street was a Newark original and an anti-violence pioneer, right? Those of us doing this work over the last generation, right? One of the persons who was in the front of what that work should look like is Earl Best, the Street Doctors. And I'll step back and let these brothers and sisters come on in and say what they need to say about Street.
I want to start off just by calling on Barry Carter. I realized that Barry Carter was the first person to ever write an article about Street Doctor. I didn't know that until we talked. Barry, can you talk to us some about that?
Yes. I met Street somewhere in early 2002, and it was at an event at UMDMJ Hospital. And I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was telling the audience about his background and how he counted cereal in jail to kill the time. And, you know, he came up to me afterwards and explained how he was, you know, turning his life around and how he was going to spend the rest of his life trying to prevent kids from going down the wrong path. He gave me his card. I gave him mine. And periodically over the next few months, he would leave messages on my voicemail saying, reminding me of who he was and that I had met him at UMDMJ. And then one day, from my office, at the time, the Star Ledger had a City Hall office across the street from City Hall. If you guys may remember where Elegant Eyes was located, we were on the second floor, and my window faced a narrow street off of William Street, and I saw a street doctor surrounded by a group of kids, and you know he had their attention. You know they were hanging on every word he was saying. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but you know he looked like the modern day Pied Piper. And so when I saw that, I decided to give him a call and said, "Hey man, let me you know hang out with you for a few days just to see what happens. You know when you're out there talking to kids." And that's what you know produced you know this story in August, if you guys can see it, August 2002, in the Star Ledger. And you know the thing that that struck me from that story, you know, we went to different places throughout the city. You know, it was truly like he was a doctor on call because people were blowing up his phone, asking him for help. I remember one story in particular, a mother was fearful that her son was going to be being recruited by a gang, and it brought tears to Street's eyes because he thought of his own mother, Rosie Best, because you know she lost him to the streets, and that's how he wound up in jail. But long story short, you know, Street was when he was out there talking to people, you know, he would say, I don't have a PhD or the MD. He would say, I have a degree in this. God has a history of using the insignificant to accomplish the impossible, and that's what he was doing out there. You know, he would not try to change, you know, the kids out there on the street. He was just trying to show them, you know, another way, as he would say. I tried to show him another look. You know, what Street perhaps maybe like lacked in education and pedigree. You know, he more than compensated for that with consistency and compassion, you know, towards the kids in the street. And you know, 6 years later, I wound up writing another story about him. I'm sure Dave could chime in on this. We talked about it a little bit. GQ magazine, you know, had an annual event called the Gentleman's Ball where they honored people doing significant work in the community, and they called Street to be a part, you know, to honor him. And they said that Forrest Whitaker, the actor, had nominated him for this you know prestigious award, and it was a fancy affair in New York at a place called the Edison's Ballroom. Edison Ballroom. Street got to meet, you know, Forrest Whitaker. Forrest introduced him, and Forrest was real passionate in explaining to like 300 people in the room about the work that Street was doing in the neighborhood. And he basically said that Street Doctor was not interested in accolades, you know, that he was the person that wanted to continue to work and walk inside the lives of others. And you know, Street Doctor was floored by the entire event. You know, when he got up to accept his award, he blew a kiss skyward in the air towards his mother, who had passed away that year in 2008. And I'll end it on this quote that he left, you know, the audience with. You know, he said, "I'll never forget this day my whole life." He said, "Once I leave here, I come out of this pinstripe suit, I come out of this flower corsage, and I'm back in the hood because that's what I love to do."
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Dave Muhammad, do you want to add to that particular story, right? Like you talked about what happened with Forrest Whitaker, the award.
So, I mean, Forrest Whitaker sent a car for Street. Street asked me to come with him because I was probably the only one that had a video camera that was handy. So he asked me to come with him to document it. So yes, when we get there, we you know, work in the room, just, you know, soaking in the whole moment. One thing that I'll never forget is that Usher, the singer, he was presenting someone else with an award.
And after the program, he came up to Street and introduced himself that I'm Usher. He said, man, it's an honor to meet you. And I really appreciate your work. And then afterwards, me and Street, we were outside, just, it was a pretty nice evening. And there were some people, man, just circling around Street. And I remember this French couple walking down the street. And they were like, well, who are you? You must be somebody, because everybody is stopping and talk to you. And Street was like, I'm the street doctor from Newark, and I help out the young people. And it's one thing to mention, Forrest Whitaker, but there are many people, man, that looked at and appreciated Street Doctor's work. You had even Bill Cosby. One of the interesting things was recently when Bill Cosby was released, his publicist got in touch with me and asked, how is Street Doctor doing? Then Street was a guest when the Dalai Lama came, and all of those things, might be important to other folks, man. But Street, the ones who he wanted to get recognized by, and whose accolades and he wanted to see their success, was the ones, as Barry quoted, the ones who society deems as insignificant. And then I know I'm gonna release at this point to other things, but man, it was so much, man, that Street Doctor. Though Barry mentioned he may not have had the education, he had the education. He may not have had the letters, the certificates, and the diplomas. I watched Street Doctor. We were at the youth courthouse, and there was a young man facing 52 years. And the public defender was basically saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to fight this case because it was against a law enforcement. And Street named the case something versus Wade or something like that. When he looked at the lineup where they had the pictures of the other suspects,
jailhouse lawyer tradition.
Yeah, Street told the lawyer to use that case because there was inconsistencies in the lineup. That young man ended up doing 18 months.
Wow. So on that level, just changed his life completely. I want to switch to Rahman Muhammad. You posted something recently where you knew his father. You were a longtime union activist before you were deputy mayor. Can you tell us about what you were going to say about Street?
Oh wow! So man, like I've been going back and forth, man, in tears. Since I found out about Street. Is crazy because my wife had came to me and said, I didn't even know he meant that much to you. And it's crazy because most people really should know how much Street meant to me. I mean, me and Street go back. When the story I tell about, he worked for my stepfather when he was younger. My father had a store. It's called the Co-op on West Kinney Street. And he worked for my stepfather, but I was younger, so I really didn't, too much interact with him. It's just the fact he was one of the guys that was in the neighborhood that was helping my father out. But I've, came in contact with Street in my adult life in the labor movement, and more so probably during the era of the whole Brick City series when he was doing it. He was very attentive to what I was doing out there as it pertains to fighting for workers, and that kind of like interested him. And so he would come up to me, for different, requests that he would ask of me, because he would ask requests of a lot of people that would not contribute to his causes. And I think that someone must have steered him to my office, because I often, gave to different charitable causes, especially when they were things that were being done for the community. And, from that point on, me and him just built this relationship. It was almost like Street was punching a clock in my office. He would be at my office so much. I actually built the community room downstairs where him, Donna Jackson, Cassandra, some of the folks from the New Black Panther Party, every single day, they had access to computers, printers, whatever they needed to get, the information out. And it gave me an opportunity to build a relationship, with all of them, what I'm saying? But Street, for some reason, me and him just, we gelled a little bit more and he asked me to just do a little bit more things with him, like going to the youth house to speak, going to the halfway house. I mean, the first time he took me to the halfway house, he asked me to feed the guys for Ramadan. And Street had heard me speak in the labor, but he never heard me actually speak outside of labor. And I remember the first time I spoke at the halfway house, and after it was over and he seen, how I was speaking, he came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you have to speak more often. You got to speak more often. You got to speak more. This is what they need to hear. This is what they need to hear. They need to hear your story. They need to hear your story." And so, me and him began to do things more into like going into the youth house. We went to the youth house probably for about 8 years straight, speaking. The youth house director would invite us every single year to speak. We would feed the kids, and they always tried to separate us in different rooms. And Street would be like, "No, we got to be in the room together." And the picture you see me with the arrest for the sanitation workers, he had. We was out in the street. They were talking about privatization of the transportation workers, and I told them I'm not leaving the streets. The cops was trying to get us to leave the streets. And I said I'm not leaving the streets until we get arrested. And the cop said, "Well, if I arrest you, would you ask the other people to get out the streets?" So I said, "Okay, you arrest me, and I'll ask everybody else to leave the streets." And so he arrested me, and they asked, "Is there anybody else that's going with him?" And Street stuck his hands up. He said, "I'm going with him." And so that's how you see me and Street Doctor, handcuffed together in that picture. There was another time he came and asked me, at Avon, there was some issues with the kids in the school. And, he had came to me and he said, "Rock, these kids don't have nothing to do. They get into a lot of trouble." He said, "Over the summertime, it's going to be crazy out here if they don't have anything to do." He asked me to adopt the school for the summer. And I went to my board and put a budget together. And I think we spent $15,000 that year. And every Tuesday and Thursday, we just went out there and just played like the games we used to play as kids, like tops and kickball and, throwing the football around, baseball, playing tag, four corners. Like, that's what we went and did, with those kids for that summer. Him, my staff, other activists. And the picture you see up there with the orange shirts, that was the end of the year great adventure trip that we took all of everybody to. So listen, Street meant so much to me. When I came into the city, Louis Katana actually hired me to the city of Newark in 2014. And one of the deals that I made was that if I came aboard, that he would have to bring on Street Doctor and Kim Gilchrist at the time. And so they agreed. And so they had me, you can imagine an office with me, Kim, and Street Doctor in the same office. It was probably the most visited office in City Hall. And so, man, we just got a lot of history together, man. I'm gonna miss this guy, so much. The whole purpose behind the bus of me even thinking about even putting a bus out there for workforce was because of the work that Street did. Because he brought service to the people, and I wanted to bring service to the people when he had his van.
And you're talking about the work you're doing now as Deputy Mayor of Employment, the bus that really is going around from community to community to have employment opportunities. You're saying that is direct results of Streets and his work.
It was a direct inspiration from the work that he was doing. He brought, he taught me to bring service to the people. That was the thing that I got from Street, from me hanging out with him, was like, let's go into we going into the neighborhoods and meet them where they at. Let's not wait for them to come see us. Let's go get them. And so the whole idea around the workforce and me trying to bring those services was born out of the work that he was doing. I really was hoping, I probably was a little naive, but I was hoping that he would get so much better so that he can actually come see that vehicle that was done. Because I know he would have been on it every single day. Helping me go out there and try to get people to be a part of getting on that bus and trying to change their lives around. Man, it's so many stories that I have to say about Street. But the thing that, with me, man, I'm going to miss, man, Street was just real. He didn't accept bull crap from nobody. Because I'm going to say some things that people probably not going to appreciate. But nah, go ahead to the next. Go to the next.
All right.
One.
So yeah, I was and Donna, Dawn, you worked with Street Doctor a lot. I've heard that some of the work that you have done with him. Can you talk to me about the work that you do and how it is related to Street Doctor?
Good evening, everyone. I wish I wouldn't have went behind rock. Now he got me all emotional. The work that I do now with the collective is definitely the Brick City Peace Collective is definitely reflective of the work that I did with Street Doctor before it was work, right? Before we knew that this was something to get paid for. Those ice rigid cold nights advocating and being activist inside of the community where violence was taking place alongside him at his Nurse Boulevard in in contrast to Street Doctor with matching overall winter snowsuits. Just seeing firsthand my mentor do the things that he did and how he did it and the way that he finessed and was stern in what he was doing and just really gave guidance and a blueprint on the work that we were supposed to be doing. And being unapologetic about it, pulling people in that are looked at as not to be brought into this type of space or into this type of circle, making sure that we are, like Rock said, servicing the people. Man, Street meant the world to me. It was like a grandfather to my girls. When I found out, my little brother called me and said, "Yeah, I remember Street used to visit us at the youth house." And I'm like, "Oh, you got to meet him personally and he was like, "Yeah, he used to come religiously to speak to us. He's the reason why I didn't get back in trouble." Cool. Then later on that day, I spoke to my father. My father and Street was good people. He said, "Yeah, when I was down in Northern, Street let me know you're not coming in here following behind these young knuckleheads. You're gonna get in that law library, you're gonna do what you're gonna do." My father said, yeah, Street, the reason why I didn't go back into I never knew any of this until after Street was gone. So to know that he played such a pivotal role in my brother's life, my father's life, and mine and my mother's, Street would get free stuff, right? Like free food. Call my mother. Sister Corinne, I'm bringing some to you. I need you to get it together for me. Like we was doing a whole transaction, whether it was peanut butter and bread to make some sandwiches or soup ingredients so he could take it down. When I tell you he was so methodical in everything that he did. And it just makes me think differently in the work that we're doing under the Brick City Peace Collective and the grassroots organizations and making sure that they stay connected with what we know we're supposed to be doing for our people in our community and servicing them the way that we have to. Because if we don't, nobody else will. And Street led that life. He led it. Him and that Jaguar.
And happy birthday to your mother today too. So absolutely.
Y'all make sure I let
She
it
out there
go.
with us in the street too. That's right.
Reverend Louise Roundtree, Don was just talking about the almost religious work that Street did in terms of it sounded like ministry, right?
Yes.
Reverend Louise Roundtree, what was your relationship?
Well, I go back to 2003 with our beloved Street Doctor. There's a quote that says that God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies to call. Street Doctor's hands was in so many things. Street had the statement that he would make that the circus doesn't change, just the clowns. Street was not fake. No matter what Street did, it was always in the best interest of those he was representing. Street did ministry on a great level for the least of these. My relationship with Street, 12 midnight. I got 30 people hungry down at Penn Station. Can you meet me and bring me some White Castle? Relationship with Street, I'm going to the youth house. There's only 3 girls that need to be spoken to, but can you get some sisters together? My relationship with Street is on Father's Day. Come down to Penn Station because we're getting on the train and taking some boys to Coney Island. Our relationship with Street Doctor cannot stop just because he's been called from labor to reward. Everyone on this line, the city of Newark was impacted. What we have is yes, the original street warrior. Yes, a dedicated servant to the people. Every cause he put his hand on, with Rockman, with Sister Dawn, Brother Baba, Brother Barry, being one of the elders at New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Someone made a statement not long ago about we are so busy running behind names, big names, that the people with the real power, you don't even call their name. Street had power, God-given power. And my prayer is that as we remember him and all of the things that he did, this show is not long enough. This hour is not long enough to pay tribute to a man called Street Earl Dr. Best. Or we're not going to leave out the entertainment piece too, because he had his hands all up in making sure different artists were taken care of. Our baby boys, our girls, our men, the crime scenes, and everybody know the entire city of Newark was his cousin. We were all related to Street. And through this relationship, to my brothers and sisters that are listening and those who are on this tonight, if we don't do nothing else, let's stop talking about folk and what they did, and through their life and legacy and works, continue what they did. Continue to feed the hungry. Continue to go to Penn Station. Continue to look out for our little young men. Continue to look out for our sisters. Because there's one thing I got to say about Street Doctor as we pay tribute to his life today. He was a true minister to Newark, a true minister to our youth, a true minister to our community, a true minister to our mayor while we traveled to the schools, the greatest cheerleader, standing up in front of those students, letting them know that those that are in trouble, that their current location is not their definite destination. There's not enough for me to say to this man or about this man, but I thank you, All Politics Are Local, and all of you who are on here, the Brother Hassans and the Director Councils and the Reverend Marquise Lewis's, the people that you have no idea behind the scenes, Sister Dawn, that while he was laying on his bed of affliction, they were looking after him, talking to him. Listen, we all know Street was a natural born hustler, but his hustle was for the people. And we thank God for his life. And each and every one of you that are on here today know what Newark meant to him and what he meant to us. Let us carry on the legacy of this awesome street warrior that could count how many Rice Krispies was in the box, that could go to a lawyer and have her defend him and he do less time. That Brother Muhammad, the case that you just talked about, how many kids that young man sat in the courtroom with, how many addicts, how many issues, how many circumstances that will never make Channel 12 news. But he did meet the Dalai Lama, and Forrest Whitaker did honor him. So Newark, I thank God that tonight that we're paying tribute to him, and it's not going to stop here. Let Street's name live forever in our hearts, and let his works carry on through our works in ministry. Thank you.
And yes, he needs a documentary, right? Like this is not enough time to talk
we
about
got thumbprint. You got the thumbprint. He got some stuff. And Shaheed, we talked to him the other day, Brother Hassan, right? And there's so much footage. There is so, never mind, he used to document his own stuff, but we've got, if we just took his stuff, we could do like a 5-part series, you know?
Yeah, I got a lot of it too, Miss Roundtree. A lot of photos and documentary stuff from him. Okay.
Shaheed is in the process of putting together something because I know Shaheed did the thumbprint piece, and like I got like I have like a series of stuff in my house, DVDs right now. That street doctor, he would bring me 20 and say, sell these, you know.
And I know because we definitely need to we like he definitely needs a documentary, and I think that everyone here has so much stuff that could definitely be in there. Mr. Kirby, or Mr. or Reverend Marquise Lewis, either one can jump in at this point and say something about your relationship with Street.
Marquise, go.
So we got two reverends back to back.
I know you're gonna say that. I just
You stop crying.
thank you all for having this tribute to the song where I consider my pops. That was my pops. I was on the phone with the Street Warriors last night before. You know, it really like I'm blessed. I'm blessed to been able to be somebody who he really believes in. You know, as a young boy in high school, who he took under his wings, and you know, really like single-handedly like picked me as the leader of the youth movement in this city, and it stood by me every step of the way, and mentored me and guided me and never gave up on me, and that's how Street was. If he was with you, he was with you. And sometimes he believed in you more than you believed in yourself. And you know, the world know him as the street doctor, I said, but I know him as Pop, you know, because he was there for me, you know. He came to school for me, you know. He came to competitions for me, and shows, and you know, when I decided to jump in the political landscape, you know, he was worried at first, and then he said, "I got your back," you know. Street, and I remember, you know, when the Street Warriors started up, and the Nicholson Foundation came and you know believed in the vision, and the street doctor brought me and took me to them, and he was like, "Here go our youth leader," and we went to the bank, and me and street doctor left out with a whole bunch of money, and she said, "It's the first time I'm leaving the bank with a bag full of legal money," and we started laughing about it. And what he did was he fed the kids. We had a big feast for us, and we went and we started going around talking to people. You know, I thank him for the times he took me to juvenile house, and you know, this time I wasn't going in as an inmate, but I was going in, you know, trying to see my brothers, you know, see my sisters, and then he said, you know what? Not only do you stop here, he took me to the county jail, and he said, this is who you need to talk to. They need to hear you. They need to hear a baby say, we need you, and that's what he was able to do. He was just so, you know, finesse with it. He was so smooth with it, and his legacy will live on. And I just want to thank him for everything he poured into me, because if it wasn't Earl Best Street Doctor, there never would have been a Marquise Lewis as I stand here today, and just look over how good my life been because I ran into a Earl Street Doctor Best.
You want to go, Dave? I guess I'll go. I thank Street Doctor because I knew Street Doctor since '93. Me and Street was in Northern together on the boxing team. So that's where I first met Street at. When I came out and I was doing the things that I was doing, he called me, we checked on each other. But one thing really changed the whole dynamics of me and Street was when the mayor started Hold the Line. And I took that literally, to hold the line. And everyone that's on this call right now, I thank you because you are the elders who really shaped me. I watched all of you. I watched how you move. I watched how you loved on Street. Dave, you know me and Street coming to your office. Dave always let us into their office or something. And Rockmine and all of y'all, you know, Street loved all of you. But Roundtree, I want to publicly thank you because when we was at that hospital and we needed to make moves, all you did was pick up that phone, make a call, and we got things done. You and Pat Council, like, if it wasn't for y'all, I would not even have the opportunity to be there with Street in his last days like I was. So I really appreciate y'all who even passed the torch or trusted me to hold that line and do the things that was needed to be done with Street. One thing about Street, it was hard not to follow him because you just knew he was going to do the right thing. And the funniest thing we did was when we called ourselves marching to when we going to Washington. We ain't had no pass, we ain't have no invites, nothing. And we in Washington, D.C. trying to get in the White House. But y'all know how Street is. He would take something and flip it around really quick. The dogs at the White House, they told us we couldn't get in there. We needed certain things. The next day, Street filming the cops with the dogs telling us to leave. So Street like, look at this. They sicking the dogs on us because they won't let us in the White House. We couldn't get in the White House. 7 o'clock in the morning, he called me and said we're going to the White House. And me, trusted Street had some connection to get in the White House, went. But it's so many different things. But in his last days, Street fought hard. I'm telling you, Street fought to the last end. And if you know Street, you know when he say no, he means no. They tried so hard to give him medication and do different things. Street wasn't with it all the way to the end. And for that, he taught me you can't ever give up. Don't ever give up. I got the boxing gloves over there in the corner. We was in there still throwing jazz. You know, everything with Street is 100 or 1,000. 100 or 1,000. And that's what it was. And I appreciate all of you for being there for Street, being there for me, and being there for the family. And in closing, I want to just remind you of something. His son is still out here. Me and his son was together today for lunch. And the one thing I share with his son, and I'm going to share with you all, his son, if you don't know, is struggling. Okay. I asked his son straight laced, bruh, how much you pay for your rent? I was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to at least pay 4 months of his rent just to give him an up so he can keep on moving because right now he's struggling and this is a hard time. Street son is our son. And with that, I'm just going to pass the mic because it's so much. And I'm so glad that you did this, brother. I'm glad you reached out to me, brother Zaire, because it was really, these last days been crazy for me. It really has because I still don't believe that he's not there. I've been so used to going over there every day. Now to ride by there and he not in there, I had to turn around and remember, bro, he not in there no more. You know, and that was kind of hard today. So I appreciate y'all for this because at least it allows me to be able to get some of this out of me because it ain't easy. It ain't easy, you know, watching your buddy go like that. It was not easy. So I thank y'all and I'm going to pass the mic.
Well, in the few minutes that we have left, several things, Hassan. This is important for you, Hassan. Well, you one of the few that actually knew him from inside, right? And you were there at the very end, right? And you're the voice that's going to help us in the community get ready for his services. You know, for those of us who didn't know him from inside, talk about his transition for a minute, and talk about what you expect is likely to happen in terms of services being put together for Street and what we may need to do for him.
Okay. Well, one of the things, the transition from inside to out here, when he was in there, the same thing you seen out here when he was coming on the blocks, doing the pad work and everything, he did that in there because he felt if one thing about boxing, if you know boxing is one of the most disciplined sports for those who know it. And he felt that if we could incorporate being disciplined, we could change our life. And that's what he stayed true to. And there he was disciplined. He had a regimen. One thing about him, if he said he gonna be somewhere at a certain time, he gonna be there. He usually be there early because Street can't follow directions too good. So he gotta get there. He gotta leave early, whatever he do, because when it come to driving, oh my God, is a whole nother level. But he was like that inside. He was the same way inside. He had you would have thought the Street was an officer in there because he had so much movement. Everybody respected him. All the officers, the captains, lieutenants, I don't know what he did or how he got that respect, but the same way you see him out here was how he was in there. Yeah, he in there you had to fight for different reasons, but Street took all that and flipped it around and came out here and kept it moving. What I want to see moving forward is the same thing Reverend Brown she said. We don't want to stop feeding Penn Station. We don't want to stop feeding the homeless. We don't want to stop looking out for our youth. But one thing in all of that, we can't forget his son. We can't. So I want to see us come together and make sure that his son does not have to struggle like he did. That's the number one thing. His son should not have to follow his footsteps of every day having to hustle for a meal or hustle just to get ahead. When we had the power as a collective people to put him in that position. And that's what I want to see moving forward. I want Street Legacy to be that he passed it to his son and his son kept it moving without the struggle and the hardship the street went through. That's my vision. And as far as the service, I just want Street to go in style. You know, we already got the suit and everything because Street like bright colors. I couldn't find no fluorescent green for him, but we gonna put him right, man. And that's about it.
We are reaching the end of this segment. We are going to start removing some of the guests from it to get our next guest back in. So if you disappear from the stream, just know we're just making room for other people to come in because we're at capacity. We need to have all of you here for what we're doing. So, is there anyone who would want to have some final say on this? I'm just going to leave this out there. We have about 4 minutes left, but if someone wants to say something, has another story that doesn't think that they want to tell, by all means, please do. And when that person jumps in and starts, we'll start removing the other guests from the back. So
if there is anyone that's watching that's interested in joining any of the organizations that Street was a part of or any of the things that he was doing in the community, please feel free. Do not hesitate to reach out so we can keep his memory, his tributes, and all of the things that he's been doing in our community alive, specifically with the boxing, with the boys, also with the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. Anything that Street was doing, let's create organizations around it to support it and push it forward within our city. I thank you for this opportunity for us to let the world know how amazing Street Doctor was to us, specifically here in the great city of Newark, and may his legacy live on. Long live Street.
Thank you. Thank you. And do we know when the services are going to be?
Brother Hassan. So I believe that, Brother Hassan.
Yes, at this moment, we're going to have his services on January 14th. The location is still to be determined. We will be having that meeting on Monday, and that information will be disseminated to everyone. But as of right now, the date is set for January 14th. We're working out the logistics for the location.
All right. Thank you so much. And as I said, there should be a documentary. I know that there are a lot of people in the arts community, and coming out in this last 2 minutes. Does anyone want to say anything?
I just wanted to. Larry Hamm said something that was important when they did his interview. He said there's going to be another Street Doctor, and I just hope that we treat him better. And the reason why I cut myself off because I know there were a lot of asks and requests. Street would tell me to be real. So one of the things that connected me and him, we didn't bull crap. We didn't bull crap with each other, and we didn't bull crap. Well, we didn't like to hear a bunch of BS. So, there were a lot of things that this brother wanted to do or resources that he needed to help the mission. I did the best I can with giving him, what resources I had, but there was much more that he needed and he just wasn't able to get. And so I just, like Brother Hamm said, man, I would just hope that in the future, man, when we see another Street Doctor that's out there actually doing the work, that we actually push the resources to that individual. I just want to say this, man, this one thing before you leave, man, something that Street did. I used to give Street money for food and, Street, he used to go buy cases of snacks with the money, and I never understood it. And I used to always get on him about that, like, shit, I give you this money, and you go buy snacks. And but one of the things he used to do was buy chocolate bars. And you know why he bought the chocolate bars? Anybody that understands the streets and understand addicts in the streets, when they're going through withdrawal, they eat chocolate.
Wow.
Them through their withdrawal. Who the hell, I'm sorry, bro, that I'm cussing, would think about addicts enough to get them chocolate bars to help them go through withdrawal?
That's right. That's right.
That's what
That's
type
right.
of mother this was. I mean, I would have never thought of that. And I do a lot. I would have never thought of that. The fact that he thought of that is something to me, man. And I'm done, man. I'm gonna do something on my Facebook Live and tell some stories about me in Street, because we got some funny stories too. But man, I just want to say thank you, brother, man. Rest in peace, Street, man. It is what it is, bro. I love you, man. I see you, man.
So thank you, and thank you to all the guests, everyone who came out for this segment, and because he needs a documentary. He's touched so many different people's lives, and
in the language of the culture, we was just sampling tonight.
Right.
My Lord.
Absolutely. So again,
thank you,
and we will. There's gonna be a lot more done on him, his work, the organizations that do the work, and carrying that on. Right. Next time that a street doctor comes up, let's treat him better than we did. Let's understand the things that that he's been working on, that we need to work on. So thank you as we do that.
God bless you, Jonathan.
Yep.
All right.
God bless you, Baba. God bless you, Hassan, David, and Rob.
All right. Thank you again.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa, and holidays, and be careful and safe in this new year.
As we cross over.
Absolutely. All right. So, Zaid, we are getting ready to go to the next segment. Do we have, we're very sobering, right? Like we have talked about the end of the year. I read an incredibly scary article today talking about the forever virus in Foreign Affairs, just like, okay. And we are honored to have Dr. Chris T. Pernell on with us. She is
one of our community doctors.
Yes.
Right? One of our community daughters on the case, right?
Yes.
One of our community daughters who does not let her qualifications get in the way of being ever present and forever a servant to her people in our community.
Her extensive qualifications.
Extensive
qualifications. Doctor and intellectual.
Sometimes Negroes get caught up in this stuff and lose their way. Right? No, she's weaponizing her capacity to serve with her qualifications. Right. And that's the kind of doctor that we have in them. We're supremely proud to have her back. In the few minutes that we have you, today and the end of the year, we just had a long, heavy session about the loss of Earl Street Dr. Best.
Yes.
Right. That's why we had so many people on, and you couldn't quite get on. Said, the screen is full. I said, stay there.
Yes.
I said,
But so this has been a heavy year. And the previous year has been a heavy year. And so as we transition to this new year with this heaviness, we need that heaviness to be informed in a very credible and very sensible and very real way. So
Newark Public Schools has just gone back to virtual learning.
Yes.
For at least the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So many of my students have come down. Like a lot of my students, a lot of the kids I coach have come down with COVID. I'm getting texts and calls every day. People who've been vaccinated. People are panicking right now. What's going on, Doctor?
So first and foremost, I want to say blessings to you both. I'm very happy that I'm able to be on with you tonight. Joyous Kwanzaa as we close out, and a happy new year, and a special hello and I love you to the good Reverend Roundtree, my sister in the struggle. But we are being battered. I think that's the most appropriate word, by the latest variant of coronavirus. And as long as we don't have vaccine equity, or we don't have robust, multi-layered public health strategies that are being enacted for not just those in our own corner of the earth, but for the world, there is the risk that these new variants will emerge. What's a variant? A variant is a mutation. What's another word for a mutation of the original strain? It's a mistake in the genetic code. And this time, when this mutation or mistake occurred, It produced a strain that we know definitively is more contagious. If Delta was about 2 times more contagious than the original strain, then Omicron is about 2 times more contagious than Delta. So to make sure everybody caught that. There isn't conclusive evidence that Omicron will definitely be milder in all persons. I want to make sure everyone understands that. It is milder if you are fully vaccinated and boosted. Yes, it is milder.
By fully vaccinated, you mean like you got that 3rd dose?
Okay, so let's back that up. So according to public health bodies, they're still defining as fully vaccinated as a complete series, whether 2 doses of the mRNA vaccine, so Pfizer or Moderna, or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson. But for those of us in public health, we know fully vaccinated means 3 doses. And so if you are not boosted, you are susceptible. In the data that has emerged against Omicron, the currently available vaccines are approximately about 30 or 35% effective. That effectiveness can be restored to about 75% at preventing severe disease, okay, if you are boosted. And there's a question now on just how long the durability of the boost is against Omicron and how our immune systems are functioning. So the most important message I think we can have for tonight is, one, we have to do what is in our individual power, right, to make sure we're safe. So that is being vaccinated and boosted. Whomever is eligible in your household, you should make it an ASAP, a priority, to ensure that those persons are vaccinated and boosted. And that means wearing an appropriate mask when you're out in public. I'm wearing an N95. I'm not going out in public without my N95 because this Omicron variant is so contagious.
So no more of those thin 1-ply paper masks, right? Cloth mask. People have and people sometimes put the paper over the cloth.
Yeah, it's not the time for that. It's not the time for that. You're not giving yourself the greatest level of protection. The cloth mask don't have the necessary layers to filter out the majority of the particles that are needed to filter out. And recall, if something is more contagious, meaning you don't necessarily need as many particles for it to, let's say, result in you being infected and then result in you possibly having symptoms.
Do I need to wear my N95 when I'm walking outside? Like, I'm not around a lot of people.
You know, if you're not in a crowded indoor space, no, you don't have to wear it. If you are in a crowded indoor space, like for instance, if for any reason someone was going to watch a ball drop, which I don't recommend, and you were in even a smaller crowd, but still a crowded space, I would have on an N95 mask. We do have some case reports of people being at concerts, being outdoors, and still a significant proportion of people popping up positive with this Omicron variant. So we have to do what's in our power to protect us with the greatest sense of surety.
There are still people who are doubting. There's still people who are like, they don't need to get vaccinated.
Yes.
What is the most clear evidence that you have that people need to get vaccinated, especially now? Because people are like, well, people got vaccinated and they still died, or they got vaccinated and they still have the disease.
Mm-hmm. The most clear evidence that we have that people need to get vaccinated is the disproportionate rates of those who are being hospitalized and then those who are still succumbing to the disease. If you throw in the boosted population and you look at that gap between hospitalization and death, it is even wider. So there was, at one point, the CDC was reporting, based off of October data, that there was maybe a 6-fold difference. So those who were unvaccinated were 6 times more likely to get infected, 14 times more likely to be hospitalized and die. So if you're boosted, that gulf is 20 times, right? So that is the most concrete evidence that we have. Now, yes, vaccinated and boosted people are getting infected because this particular variant is that crafty. As long as we have a sizable proportion of our population and the global population unvaccinated, the chance that these variants can emerge that can evade the protection that our vaccines afford, unfortunately, remains.
So that
Okay,
big
good.
argument is just it's in the numbers. If
It's
you
in the
actually look
numbers.
at the people who are getting sick and dying in hospitals, there's just a huge
Yes.
difference.
It's in the numbers. Like even tonight, unfortunately, my 84-year-old aunt, right, tested positive. You know, I'm very vigilant, making sure my family is well taken care of, as I'm very vigilant, making sure our community is taken care of. And we tested her, an at-home test, because she developed some symptoms, and she came back positive. My aunt is vaccinated and boosted. She's saturating well. So what that means for people, I checked her oxygenation levels in her blood with something called a pulse oximeter, and she's saturating well. She doesn't have a fever. She, outside of her cough and congestion, is stable. If she had not been vaccinated, being elderly, having high blood pressure, and in addition to a few other elements, would have catapulted her risk of being hospitalized and even a worse outcome. And I just learned about someone within the past 2 weeks, not even 40, dying from COVID, unvaccinated.
Mayor,
Young
welcome.
folks are getting this. What are we
Yes.
saying to our young folks to get them to get the importance of being careful?
Well, I just want to also acknowledge that the mayor has come on.
Wonderful
and,
surprise guest.
Good to
Could
see
come on
you.
at a
Good
better
to see you,
time on a
Mr.
better
Mayor.
topic.
Good to see you.
and you came on because you wanted to add something to this topic?
And glad to see
No,
you
but
doing well, sir.
I was going to talk about street, but yeah, I mean, this is right. We just had our Facebook Live. I had both the CEOs of both of the hospitals on talking about just the hospitalizations, period, you know, and what's been going on in the hospital. And, you know, there is an increase. Obviously, it's not like it was in March of 2020, but and I think that has a lot to do with what y'all discussion. There's a lot of people that are vaccinated. And so there's less hospitalizations than it was and less people in ICU, which is good. You know, we just have to, you know, when this thing peaks and when it gets rough in the next couple of weeks, we just have to pray that the people who are the most vulnerable are protected.
Yes. And can I just add one other point to that, Mayor?
Of course.
Not only to make sure that the people that are most vulnerable are protected, but I want people to understand when we have a surge on our hospitals, it doesn't only impact those who have coronavirus. It impacts anyone needing care, needing urgent or emergent care at a hospital. So that means that perhaps we don't have the staff available to do those other types of procedures. It means that could be potentially a delay. That means that potentially elective cases can be postponed or canceled. So this is why it's so important for everyone to be protected and for systems and cities and states and the nation to practice a multi-layered strategy, because the impacts of not doing otherwise are not only felt by the unvaccinated, but are felt by the vaccinated and even the boosted.
So you're saying if someone gets a stroke or a heart attack, they are more likely to die because they can't get treatment? Is that like if the hospitals are actually overcrowded?
Yes, yes. We have seen across the nation, right? We have seen patients with cancer. We have seen patients who needed emergent care for some condition that they had a delay in care because of a surge on a hospital. Thankfully, we are mitigating that surge to the best of our ability right now in New Jersey because of what the mayor has said. But we do know that this thing has not peaked yet, right? And so that we will see even more exponential cases on top of the case rate that we currently have. So it's unfortunately going to get worse before it gets better.
Okay. We're already at the place that we were at in March in terms of Newark's infection rate is exactly where we were in March. We're almost at 60%. We're above 50% now. So if it gets worse, now can you imagine if folks were not vaccinated and all of the other stuff weren't in place and all of the deaths and chaos that we experienced then, it would be twice as much. Because if this thing hasn't peaked yet, good grief, we're in for something.
And Mayor Baraka and Dr. Pernell, so is the upside of it is because so many people were vaccinated, case in point, Mayor Baraka, because you were vaccinated, you didn't have to be hospitalized. You didn't get the worst of it. You still got it, but you were asymptomatic, I believe. So is it because more people vaccinated that we're seeing, less morbidity? Yeah, as we did when it first came out in 2020.
Yeah, I
So is
believe
it?
so. And I think the hospital, the doctors know more, and the hospitals know what to do now. They're more experienced with patients coming in. They know how to keep the hospital safe, all of those other things. But the vaccinations play a huge part of it. I mean, we just saw a precipitous drop in everything when we start introducing vaccines.
Definitely.
I mean that's just clear. That things just started dropping. The death rate, the hospitalization rate, the transmission rate with the old and virus, the original one. Then we started getting these variants, which added to the uptick. And now this Omicron is so contagious, like it is flying through everybody.
Yeah, and I just want to applaud you, Mayor, for on this quick point, because of what the city of Newark is doing, like requiring proof of vaccination to enter certain businesses and things of that nature. That is what we need to be doing. Those are public health strategies that will keep the largest amount of our population and the public safe. And the other 2 points I just want to make really quickly is that even though we have a question of whether or not Omicron is less virulent or whether or not we're seeing lower hospitalization rates because we have more vaccinated people, what we know is we don't want people to get infected because the risk of long COVID, okay? The risk of long COVID is still there and will remain as long as someone has a positive infection, regardless of whether or not they have symptoms. And then finally, our children, we're seeing at the beginning of this most recent week, we have 59 pediatric hospitalizations across the state of New Jersey. I haven't seen the most recent data now that the week is over. That was a 4-fold increase. If you look at a comparative week in November, when we had approximately 2 pediatric hospitalizations per day, we rose to 11 pediatric hospitalizations a day across the state of New Jersey. And that's because the children, though eligible for vaccination and 5 and above, we still don't have a critical amount of those persons vaccinated. So this is, again, is a call to action to parents, to guardians, to grandparents, to aunts, to uncles, to the community, to the village. If you know someone who's unvaccinated, and you know someone who is not boosted, make it your priority to help them navigate this decision so that we can get everybody to higher ground.
Let me ask this one quick. Well, let's go ahead, and we know you have to go in a minute.
Well, we know that. Dr. Pernell, we know that she's already over and has to go.
Yeah. Very, very quickly. Some say that there needs to be a space, a time spread between that second shot and that booster shot.
Right.
How should folks measure when to get that booster shot in terms of being previously vaccinated?
Yeah, so there is a lot of interesting data around this, and a couple of countries are doing this differently, right? So Israel is one of those countries that is exploring different intervals between vaccination. What we do understand from the data that is currently available is that immunity probably begins to wane and at the end of that second dose series around 20 weeks, right? So if your immunity is waning around 20 weeks, when should you get the third dose? There is now recent data out that third dose may only last 10 weeks, hence why Israel is already considering a fourth dose for healthcare workers, right? Those who are in very high risk occupations and high risk settings. So we don't have a consensus yet, but I do believe as time continues to pass, we will reevaluate and maybe vaccinating people sooner. When I say vaccinating, I'm talking about that third dose sooner than 6 months, actually. Before, the thinking was just a second dose in the series. Should that come a little bit later? Should it not come at 3 weeks and post the first Pfizer or 4 weeks of post Moderna? I think the more important question is, when should the booster come?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And Dr. Pernell, we will have to have you back on
definitely
our show. And it's always an honor having you on, and we'll definitely have to have you back on this conversation.
Definitely. I just want to salute Street Doctor too, because he did Herculean work for our community and for our village. So I definitely want to yield this time for the mayor to give his regards. And everybody have a blessed and prosperous new year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, daughter.
Thank you.
Yep, very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Mayor, you unexpectedly came on the show. That's great. And because of the last segment.
Yeah.
Because street meant a lot to everybody.
Yep. Just wanted to, express my feelings before, you guys did whatever you do, Street was very important to the city and very important to many people, man. It was like commonplace to see him with 4 or 5 young people, teaching them how to box, taking them to great adventures and, all of these water parks and all this other kind of thing, raising dollars to do that. This guy barely had money himself and he was giving it to other people all the time. I mean, he just was a different type of person. And, hopefully we can send him off the way he needs to be sent off, because, the work that he did is like unparalleled. A lot of folks do a lot of pointing at what's wrong. Street really wasn't too much into that. He was really into trying to transform himself, and in his process of transforming himself, he helped transform a lot of people's lives in that process. A lot of people benefit from your public transformation and your public change and development. And that's what happens. It's sort of like my father, a lot of people benefited from the changes he had in his life. His kind of public transformation of his life all the time affected groups of people all of the time, and changed, trajectories of entire movements. Street Doctor and his self-development, his consistent self-development, and not running from even the errors and mistakes that he made in his life constantly, and trying to address those in a public way, helped so many people come to grips with their own issues and try to figure out how to be a part of that. And him doing that at schools and jails. I've been to schools with him. I've been to the county jail with him several times. I've been to the youth house with him several times. We were trying to get into Northern State right before he got sick. I mean, all of those, and he would come to the office and make sure, like clockwork, it's time to go to the jails, it's time to go to the schools. I'm going to call Miss Taylor to set up the dates, so forth and so on. Because, he was very adamant about getting in there, making sure people didn't make errors in their lives like he did, or begin to stay on the right path. He knew we needed a cadre of soldiers of folks in our community to help combat the craziness that's going on, right? A lot of times we trying to change things in the world, but the way they beating us up out here, man, who we changing it for? We forget that the people who we're struggling for are going through things. Sometimes we believe like we superheroes, and we start saying all of this stuff like, like we can't be hurt. But the condition of our community is proof that we've been hurt, and that we hurt each other because we've been hurt. And, Street was really into addressing that, because you can fix the house and make the house beautiful, but if the people can't live in it, because they all tore up, then there's no use to fixing the house. We got to be able to fix individual people's lives. And Street Doctor was 100% involved in that process, right? Trying to fix other people's lives, or help them before it got out of hand for them. Whether you were homeless or on drugs, or a kid or a student or formerly incarcerated or incarcerated now, he didn't discriminate at all.
So, and you broke down that that the stuff, well, I believe it was in our earlier segment, many of the guests broke down that the current policies that they're working on were directly in line with the work that Street did, as in like the actual policies. Many of the policies of your administration were directly inspired by his earlier work. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly what I said. Like we're addressing things so it don't further hurt us, right? Whether you're talking about even the CCRB, you're talking about stuff. So in the future, everybody else that's already been hurt by it has already been hurt by it or killed by it or whatever. Or whether you're talking about housing or universal basic income or all of these things that we try to do in our community, or pipelines for kids to go to college, the expansion of our children at NJIT through Mayor Scholars programming, forcing Rutgers to add more people to the university. All of those things, help more kids go to college and not jail, help improve their individual lives, everything you can think of that we struggle for in a kind of progressive and leftist way, are done to transform society, right? But the people that have already been hurt by all of these things, sometimes, we don't address it. And Some, we overlook it sometimes, or, we expect them to behave differently. And it's just abnormal for us to expect specific outcomes from people who have just been through all of this stuff that folks have been through.
Like the chocolate bars.
Like
that
who?
The chocolate bars, right? Like that is something that I believe Rahman Muhammad talked about in the last segment, that the street doctor would always make sure that they got a lot of chocolate. They were like, why?
So,
And that was because drug addicts, people who were recovering, right, needed that.
Yeah. He definitely did all kind of things that, he would tell me all the time, a spider web could tie up a lion. When we start talking, I start talking about, some of the things that are obstacles that are in our way from doing the stuff that we need to do. He would say all of these kind of things. Spider web could tie up a lion, that a tree makes thousands of matches, but it takes one match to burn thousands of trees, or some, he would come up with all kind of stuff that he would say, just really to get your mind on the idea that, we can change this thing, little by little, you can change it. And yeah, it's about changing policy for the long term and changing the conditions so future people are not hurt. But there are generations of people who've been wore down by this. And we tend to, like, for example, we made, delicacy chitlins out of pig guts. You know what I mean? We made, we made a delicacy out of wildflower flowers. Whatever was given to us, we transformed it into something that everybody wants, right? So sometimes we romanticize the conditions in our community, the things that we're going through, we romanticize that, we call it magic and all these other kind of things. And really, we have been hurt by it. And I think the acknowledgement of it helps us deal with where we actually are, right? That we have been hurt. The mental illness is very real in our community. Domestic violence is very real in our community. Self-annihilation and self-hatred is very real in our community. Internalized pain and aggression is very real. Trauma is very real generationally in our community, because of the condition that we've been through in this country for hundreds of years. It was be impossible for us not to have been affected by all of these things. Even the people who are trying to change the conditions have been affected by it. That's why we can't stop fighting each other. It's just very real, and it's hard to address. And I think that was Street's assignment, right? Really, that's really what he was here to do. Try to put that in our face and address it. Like, he would force me to go to those schools and talk to those kids. And while I was helping the kids, it also helps me. So, I mean, it's therapeutic for you at the same time while you in there, talking to young people about, the things that you think that it's going to help them not fall victim to the stuff that's going on out here. Every army needs soldiers, and if they ripping our soldiers from us, then our struggle becomes depleted of the very people that we need to help transform what's going on. If they wipe out our young people, if they, like he would say, if they high on all of these promethazine and blue Jews, if they're going to jail constantly and beating and shooting one another, then we changing the world for the youth who we have to get to be alive long enough to continue to struggle with us.
Wow. I know, Larry Hamm, you are with us as well. I know that you also have some things that I know that you want to say as well on this.
You're muted, Damon.
I am greatly saddened by the passing of Street Doctor. I remember one time there was a terrible snowstorm and I had to go to the post. I was trying to get a mailing out for something we were doing. And there was only two people down there at the post office, me and Street Doctor. Street was trying to mail something. I was trying to mail something. Both of our birthdays were like in the same week. I think his birthday is the 26th. My birthday was 24th.
Yeah.
It's so sad, when someone who really served the people passes away. I mean, he was a good brother. regardless of what may have happened earlier in his life, he was totally dedicated to trying to help people. And one of the things that really, really hurts me about Street is that he didn't have a whole lot of support for the very large problems he was trying to tackle. I mean, he would, ask POP for help, and we would help as best we could, but it's just a shame that there's so many people laboring out here who are trying to do things to help, and the resources just aren't there, or if they're there, somebody's holding them back. I mean, I don't know who that somebody is, but I know Street probably could have done much more if he had had more resources, and this is a lesson for the philanthropic community. There are people, you don't always have to give to a 501c3. A lot of our people who are trying to serve, they're not incorporated. They're not corporations. They just concerned citizens. But if you're not all dressed up legally in a 501c3, it's going to be very difficult for you to get the resources that you need. Street would. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, Mayor, you've actually spoken directly to that issue. I know that you said before that there are so many nonprofit organizations that are supposed to be to help us. And one of the things that I know that was said earlier, I believe, Larry, you wrote this in, that there are going to be more streets and they needed to be treated better.
That's right.
What do you have to say on that, especially given your history of activism as well, and the past things that you really talked about in terms of so many philanthropic organizations go through Newark, but why not, what is there we can do to make sure that it actually goes to the people who are actually doing the work?
Well,
this is for the mayor. No, go ahead, man.
No, you go ahead. I'll go.
No, you go ahead.
I like that.
One, I think we just have to prepare each other to be able to deal with that, and we have to put more pressure on these philanthropic organizations. But also, we can find ways for nonprofits to help, local nonprofits to help folks like Street. They can do that and give money to them. So the city now is getting ready to put out $19 million over 3 years just for community-based organizations to deal with some of the issues that Street was trying to deal with in terms of violence prevention, all the issues that lead to the trauma that we're talking about. But unfortunately, the stuff that that Larry is talking about, many of these folks won't be prepared to receive a lot of those dollars because they just don't have the infrastructure to do that. And so there's only two things we really can do is bring people in and teach them how to put it together, or find organizations that are willing to give money to these folks who are doing the work out here in the street in that capacity, right? Because ultimately, you don't want the feds to come down on your head either. So you have to, we just have to be smart about how we get these things done. And keep in mind, folks like Street Doctor who just out here laboring in the vineyard without any real, infrastructure or support, and not looking for anything for himself. He wasn't a mercenary, because we got a lot of mercenaries, out here. He wasn't those people, people who take up the causes just to get paid. Street didn't do that, If he didn't believe in it, he wasn't doing it. So, and he tried to stay out of the fights that people had, Street tried to get along with everybody, tried to stay out of the fights and the disagreements that people had. And he tried to bring people together. He would come around, like Larry said, I need money to do this, I need money to do that. And invariably, we try to find some money so he can go to Dorney Park, go to Great Adventure, do all those other kind of things. But that was just pittance compared to the things that he really needed.
Right. I agree with that. And, the life of Street Doctor also, it touches on so many aspects of Black life here in America. Maybe not just Black life, but poor people's life here in America. Street was struggling with his own health care. Yeah. We need universal health care in America. Nobody should be dying because they're scared. You know, people are scared to go to the doctor. One of the reasons people don't want to go to the hospital is because of the enormous hospital bills that they hit with if they're not insured. Right. And a lot of poor people are not insured because in this country, insurance is attached to a job. And if you're poor, you're unlikely to have a job or you have a gig. You know, it's when you talk about the gig economy, they can have it because gig don't have no benefits, no health benefits. Even Medicare, and I'm for universal health care, but even Medicare has a copay. Medicare only covers up to 80%. And there are a lot of senior citizens, even with Medicare, they be scared to go to the doctor. And my understanding is that Congress the Senate, as a matter of fact, in the 60s, put it together that way just so Black people would have an extra burden to bear. I mean, like one of the reasons we don't have universal health care is because we had segregated hospitals. And if we had Truman wanted to put universal health care in place, but he wouldn't do it because the Dixiecrats, the Southern Dixiecrats knew that if hospitals received federal funds, they would be federalized and thereby subject to federal law and anti-discrimination laws. Like race is one of the reasons. See, you got people like Street Doctor who giving all for the people, but he can't get health care, can't get it in time. Yes, he was in a hospital. He was in a hospice by the time he died, but he probably should have been there 10 years ago. These problems should have been taken care of 10 years ago, but he didn't have health care. You know, I mean, it's just terrible. I've seen this all over the country. I remember I was in Chicago when Harold Washington was being elected. We were out there doing voter registration, and there was a brother out there like Street Doctor. His family almost froze to death. We were at a Harold Washington rally, and he spoke at the rally, thanking people for their donations. His furnace broke down. It was like $6,000 to fix the furnace. He didn't have the money, and his family would have froze to death if people hadn't thrown in money to help get his furnace fixed so he could have heat in the house. You know, the healthcare policies, the housing policies, the employment policies, you know, make it almost impossible for people who really want to do good to do it in a way that can have the maximum effect on people. A person like Street Doctor should not have to worry about a doctor or a dentist. You know, it angers me to no end because so many activists have met this same end like this. And we got to change this damn society. I mean, why are we in a country, the richest country in the world? Why are children going hungry? What the hell? Why are children going hungry in this country? Right now, the pandemic. This is the richest country in the world. The epicenter of worldwide COVID is here in the United States.
That's right.
We're pulling up on 900,000 people dead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 2 million with long-term COVID. I'm getting ready to leave this program right now and go to the hospital. With someone just called me. They scared they're gonna die in the hospital because the hospital workers can't give every patient the attention. Why are we closing hospitals in America? Yeah. There should be a law against closing hospitals. We don't have enough hospitals to deal with the COVID. I'm gonna drive right now past the abandoned Orange Memorial Hospital. It's abandoned. And we don't have enough beds in hospitals to help the people that have COVID.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. And when you're speaking like that, in terms of just so many people who are doing the work and who are trying to be as sincere as possible, not having the ability to even take care of their own lives based on the way our society is structured.
And you know what, John, I want to go back real quick. Mary, you had said something about Street Doctor, that it was just finding money just so he can take the kids to Asbury Park or wherever. Mm-hmm. But I also want to just hone on that, how important it was for him to do that, because I can remember him talking about these babies never leaving Newark. And
That's
he
right.
just wanted them to have the opportunity to see the New Jersey shore. So while it was a small, maybe one of the smaller things that you were able to help contribute, it really made a big difference, because he was very right. Some of our babies had they not got on that bus for Street Doctor, had left the city of Newark to see the New Jersey shore. So those were things that we have to make sure, as Reverend Roundtree said, that somebody picks up that torch and continues, because that, made a difference for somebody to see outside of what they normally see. It really made a difference.
It did, and he did that all the time. And I think the reality is it allows people to see that, and I think it's incredibly important because it allows people to see what the rest of the world looks like and what they're living like, and that their situation is not normal, right? And really, it sparks something in them to say, there's something that needs to change, and then the follow up is just us being able to provide the right kind of civic and political education for young people and people in our community, to show them, to tell them why they're in the situation they're in and how they can get out of it. And because that part of it is not done, because any human being want the things to make their lives better, they fall victim to the things that are going on in their community, in the street, that are not necessarily positive for them. So Street sparked a lot of people, and he kept a lot of kids out of trouble in the summertime, and he kept them busy. He disciplined them, all of those things. And a lot of times we talk on the show about, even the movement in Newark, the cultural nationalist kind of movement. And though I have criticisms of a lot of the things that happened, but I always say that some of those things that existed, those institutions, were invaluable, and they never should have been taken down. There are countless young people who need that. Like right now, they need, they need discipline. They need to be involved in something. They need information. They need culture. They need love. All those things that those institutions provided. And Street tried to do that by himself. A one-man army with any group of people that was down with helping him do that. At the time, and then people get tired because he don't have any resources or money, so they don't hang on too long. But since he's committed to the end, he's going to do it, even if you have to do it alone. He's going to do it. And as Larry said, this community, this country, it's almost impossible for him to do the things he wanted to do and take care of himself at the same time. It's virtually impossible to do that. That's how the movement's broken down. People have to take care of their families. They put so much pressure on you and your family and broke your families up and apart and down. It's difficult to fight in the movement and take care of your family and fight the system from destroying your family at the same time. And that's just very real, and we don't really address that like we should. We just don't address the hardships of trying to change a behemoth like the United States of America, right? That has had a 400 and some odd year head start on the work that we're doing now. So my hat's off, always been off to Street Doctor, man. I always helped him as much as I could. And he wanted to talk, I let him talk. He wanted to vent sometimes as he came to vent. I let him do that. I let him say whatever he wanted to say. And the thing I loved about Street, he didn't just come to criticize, you know what I mean? He did that, trust me. But, Street would come and say, we need to do this. Key word is we, right? Unlike, I ran to a guy a couple of months ago in the summer. He said, you need to do something about these young people with these guns. Me by myself, what I'm saying? Street would say, we need to do it, right? We need to do something. We need to go to this block. We need to go to the schools. We need to go to Bradley Court. We need to go to down here. We need to do this, and we need to do that, and we need to do this. And when I went to do it, guess who was there? Him. Yeah, he was there all of the time, without fail. Yeah, we need to go to the youth house, brother. I go in the youth house, set it up. I go in there to speak. Street at the front door.
And it's because you're like that. I think what you're adding is that he always had solutions, right? He was part of the. He didn't just have solutions; he was part of the solution.
Yeah, well, he thought he was a part of it. Like he wanted what he was saying is he needed help. That's what he was saying. I need help. I'm doing this, so we need to do it. You know, I'm going to do this, so we need to do it, right? So let's go. Like, I need you to be involved in this, right? Get involved. I need money for this. We need to do this. There are people out here starving. We need to take care of this. There's some homeless people on this block in this neighborhood. We need to go do that. Or we need to find housing for this person, or housing for that person. And he would do that. It's one thing to just get on social media and show a picture. Look at these 3 homeless people down here, city, da 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 da. And you find out about those 3 through them. Street would come get you to take you there. Right? Be like, look, we can do this, such and such. You need me to do this. You need me to do that. You need me to do this. Let's, to run the errands or wherever it is, because he was going to help. Whatever needed to get done, he was definitely going to do it without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, like we said in the last segment that that Street actually needs a documentary, right? Because just in terms of not just his biography and the things he's done, but the breadth of people who were affected by his work in one way or another, right? Like, and that is a talent, right? To be able to get so many different people from so many cross sections of a community to be affected positively by what you're doing in a way that all of them recognize that that's a need, right? Like, and so absolutely that is.
Yeah. I would come out on Green Street, brother. He would have 4 or 5 young boys lined up right outside of Green Street by my car. Say, this is the mayor. Da, 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 da. Have them speak to me, address me, all this other kind of stuff. Talk to them, say something to them, kind of thing. So I want them giving a lesson right there on Green Street in the middle of the day. Street to set up a classroom outside my car, and then march them on out of here and so forth and so on. And on the way out, say, I'm doing this next week. I need your help,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the kind of, the person that he was.
I remember Street, man, as a young guy, when I was a young dude out here, I remember Street, when he had the white suit on, and he was downtown New York, and you always saw him with the white suit. And being a young kid, trying to get work, trying to get jobs and stuff, Street was always right out there in front of the Department of Labor. He'll come snatch you, take you around the corner, you know what I'm saying, give you the information you need or whatever, you know what I mean? And I remember that, man. And I also remember, a time where, there was people coming into Newark and they doing construction and they building in Newark.
That's right.
Street would grab us up. He would grab a whole bunch of us up and be like, look, you got all these brothers out here that need work. And I don't see nobody here from Newark, building in this construction site right here. You don't even have nobody that look like us. You know what I'm saying? And so, and Street wasn't having it, man. He was not having it. You know what I'm saying? Right. He was out there with the bullhorn and he's letting them know, look, man, we're going to make noise on this because they building in Newark and they don't have nobody from Newark to help build. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I remember Streets for, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I remember.
All those guys, in fact, that working at the Port Authority now, it took us a minute. The longshoremen opened it up and allowed people to get in there, and all of the warehouses started hiring people. That was because of a conversation that Street and I had in the beginning. Like, Street, like, we got to go down to Port Authority, man. They hiring all these people. We not down there. There's thousands of jobs, and we started marching on Port Authority. We started having marches. We went down there. We blocked the streets up. We did all the kind of things and did follow up. And then eventually, they started bringing people on. There's a lot of people that are down there working. And, none of them was able to tell Street Doctor thank you. They might have thanked the city or Dave Muhammad or other people that was involved in helping them through the process. But the initial, spark was Street Doctor.
Yeah. So, and that's what I meant in terms of just like, when a lot of people were talking about the actual policies that are being followed and how they've got, like, Street was there for and inspired a lot of these things that we're trying to push forward with. And I know that we are getting ready to start running out of time. I would like to ask on this question, going forward, what do we take from his legacy to affect our future?
Real quick, just for me, I'm just gonna say, call them out when you see them. That's what I learned from the street. Call them out when you see them. When you see something's not right, call it out. You know what I mean? And put the right people in place.
And for me, real recognize real. Street doctor, there's something about, I love our elders when they get to a point where they realize that time is of the essence. So they're not going to, mix their words. They're going to say what they have to say and be about their business. And that's what I liked about Street Doctor. He was about his business. He would step on the scene, say what he had to say, hold you accountable, might follow up with you. But it wasn't no long, drawn out, cute speech. This was what we needed. How is it going to get done? And when should I, get back to you to make sure that it is done? And I appreciated that about him.
Yeah, I would say hold the line or Bombay, like we say at the men's meeting. That's what he did. He held the line, and as we just said, he didn't deal with like foolishness, like the problems that people had, the bickering, the craziness that go on in our community. He sidestepped a lot of that stuff and chastised people for being involved in it. No matter who was doing it, he would say something to him and got a little enemies because of that. Because he would say, this is stupid. We shouldn't do this. We should be working together, so forth and so on. And he just didn't tolerate that kind of stuff. So,
can you elaborate on that just a little bit in terms of just because I think that goes to when we're talking about a sense of legacy, it's a lot of it is, well, what can other people who want to have the same impact do going forward? And you're saying that there's a level of divisiveness, like he spoke his mind, he would let you know what's up. What's the line between what he did in terms of holding people accountable and the things that you're saying are divisive?
People know when you're holding them accountable out of love, like, when your parents, like your parents or somebody else, that holding people accountable, because folks who try to hold you accountable, who you feel genuine love from, are also trying to help you do better, right? And they involve themselves in it. Like Street involved himself in it. He didn't say something from the outside. He got in the middle of it. And then when he saw like people going at it, like being divisive, he tried to get in the way of it, like tried to solve it. Like he'll come talk to me and talk to somebody else and be like, look, y'all need to, so forth and so on. Because he understood that ultimately the united front is what we need. And anybody that's opposed to a united front, in my mind, is either subjectively or objectively our enemy. At the end of the day, Street tried to disrupt that, and even said stuff to people who furthered that, like who tried to further that. He got in the way of it. Why? Because he needed help from everybody, and he understood that, and he tried to get it from as many people as he could. And I got that 100%. I got it.
So that in order to be effective, you need to make sure that the attacks are not personal, but they're like accountability attacks that are based on like not even like, look, here is what I'm thinking. Here's why I think it. Here are the problems that I have with what you're doing here. Very different than calling you names, right? Very different than saying certain things where you can't really work with people anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Because the objective is different. Like if your objective is to disrupt or destroy, that's different than trying to create unity, right? Or move something forward. Like, and I think Street, was trying to move it forward, right? If it was moving too slow or moving in the direction he think it shouldn't have been in, he would say something about it. Don't mean you agree with him all the time, but he certainly is going to say it. And he's the type of guy, like I'm saying. So if even if we disagree, he coming tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying? Like we could disagree today, but if it's an event tomorrow, Street gonna be there. He gonna be there and still talk about it. And still talk about it. We'll be at the University High School speaking to the kids at University High School who pull me aside and talk about something else. But at the end of the day, what we had to do would not end. It continues to go forward. Like and would get up there and be the first one to speak and start the show and get it ready. all the time. Be front and center and on time, all the time.
And Larry.
Muted. Okay. You unmuted.
Yeah, it's for the record. I always mute anybody who's not speaking, just to avoid feedback.
And what's the?
We lost the mayor.
We did for now, but I know that we are getting ready to. I just want to make sure that you had what is moving forward in terms of his legacy. What do we get from it? What do other younger?
Well, we got to
actors,
save these children, man. Street was about the kids, man. We got to save these children. These children do not have as bright a future as my generation had. Now, I know some people don't want to hear that, but I'm speaking from my own experience. When I was coming up as a kid, we had everything at South 17th Street School. Everything. And had it all year round. When it got cold, we was in the gym. I'm talking about after school. When it was warm, we were playing in the playground, and they took us across the street to Westside Park. We had model cities. We had Title I. We had all kind of programs. I went to the World's Fair, Title I program, bus ride, South 17th Street School. Went to the Natural Museum of History because Title I was about educational enrichment. These kids don't have that now. You go up South 17th Street School now, the playground is filled with, what are those things called when the classroom's overcrowded?
Oh, modules.
Yeah, the playground filled, there's no playground. I mean, if that's not the metaphor, I don't know what is. I went to South 17th Street School from 1957 till I graduated. 8th grade. And now they don't have a playground. I don't know how they solve the physical education requirement, but I know they don't have a playground. And they ain't had a playground for about 30 years.
Wow.
So we got to save the children. And I'm going to say something that might not dovetail with everything that everybody is saying. These children are not going to be saved unless we change this rotten ass system we live on. It's a complex issue that does involve self-sufficiency, self-help, yes. You know, you got to have some ambition you got to do for yourself. But this system is set up to perpetuate poverty. It's not, poverty is not just something in the system. It's created by the system and it's used by the system. And the poor are exploited more than anyone else.
And it seems like what both you and what the mayor had been talking about were just in terms of that minimum basic income, when you were talking about healthcare, when you were like, a lot of the things that it seems to be boiling down to is a lot of the things that Street was fighting for is stuff that, you know, a society that loved its citizens would already have.
Right. That's absolutely right. But there should not be poverty. There should not be hunger in the richest country in the world. It just should be.
Right.
There should not be people without health care.
Right.
I mean, this ain't even a socialist question.
Right.
All the other capitalist countries have universal health care. Right. Great Britain, the home of modern industrial capitalism, has a National Health Institute, the National Health Care. They love that system so much. Listen, they love that system so much. Remember when the Olympics were in England? When the Olympics were in London? What was the opening show? The opening show of the Olympics were the British celebrating their national healthcare system.
Right. And I know that we are running.
Jonathan, can I just ask one thing?
I know. Yes, but now we have about 1 minute left. We're trying to wrap up as well.
Can I just ask one thing before we leave?
All right.
Yeah, let Larry get his announcements in too.
Okay. I just want, if we just, as we just, this is a hip hop political show, and as we close out and the last show of the year, can we just say a song real quick that kind of that makes us think of Street Doctor. And if I was to say a song, I would think of Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. What song would you think of, Rhino, for Street Doctor?
Fight the Power.
Okay. Right. Chairman?
On that same album, Save the Children. That's on the What's Going On album.
Zaid?
He froze.
Yeah, he just said it. Save the Children, Marvin Gaye's album.
And Jonathan, you have to.
Yeah, I would say Tupac's Keep Your Head Up, because that's my, like, generally that's like a sense of community love and understanding love in spite of a society that is, is trying to undermine and destroy you. So I think that, like, we were originally not even going to broadcast today, right? We were like, nah, we shouldn't broadcast today. It's New Year's Eve.
Too much going on not to.
Right. And I'm glad that we had all the guests and everything that we had on. Glad that we had Leroy Jones on. Thank you so much for coming on New Year's Eve to talk about, a year in politics. Thank you for everyone who came on to give a tribute to Street Doctor. Thank you to Dr. Chris T. Pernell coming on talking to us about COVID. Thank you, Larry Hamm, for coming on and adding to Street Doctor. Thank you, Mayor Baraka. Thank you for coming on and just jumping on, because we appreciate that. Because that is like the whole dynamic of the show. Who he was, right? Who he was, who he is, who he will be, right? That you were so compelled to be like, nah, I need to say something about this man and what he's done, right? So I mean, that was a powerful tribute in and of itself, in that it's like, nah, I just gotta, talk about it and the things he did that affect policy now. So, Rhino, Larry Hamm, either of you want to have the last say before we close this out?
Happy New Year.
All right.
Yeah. And I just Happy New Year. And I just know, and I know that we will open up. We will
Zaid,
open up the. We will open up the year, and Chairman, if you can come back and talk about maybe the protests with Dr. King, and we can talk about what the family is asking in the top of the year. We can talk about that.
Right. Let me just mention real quick. Tomorrow we'll be marching for justice for Carl Dorsey. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary when Carl Dorsey was shot and killed by a Newark police officer. Carl Dorsey was unarmed when he was killed. So we will be meeting at the Lincoln statue at 12 noon tomorrow. And hopefully the weather will hold, but we'll be there, rain or shine. We'll figure it out when we get there. But we have to demand justice for Carl Dorsey, and calling on the Attorney General of New Jersey. They've been investigating this thing for a whole year. Ain't nobody said nothing. Anybody heard anything about Carl Dorsey this year?
Not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing.
She got quiet.
And I'm calling on the acting United States Attorney General for New Jersey, Honig, to launch a civil rights investigation into the death of Carl Dorsey.
There. And so we hope to hear from you, Chairman Lawrence. And we hope to.
Sometimes when I come on this show, I don't know, I feel like the Dark Lord. I bring all the bad
something like that. No, not at all, man.
You'd be scared to bring me on because, like the prophet Elijah, like they said about Elijah, they said, the king said, let's bring Elijah to tell us what's going to happen. The other king said, no, don't bring Elijah. He never have nothing good to say.
Well, but you got something true to say, and that's the most important thing.
That's what's important.
You got stuff that's true to say, and that's the most important thing. Like in the spirit of Street Doctor, and you say what needs to be said. So thank you. Happy New Year to everyone. And we're gonna start.
And get vaccinated. God damn it, everybody get vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get vaccinated.
And everybody
get your booster.
And you know what? If y'all get to the Zanzibar before midnight, you can get a vaccination for free.
Oh,
There you
nice.
go.
Okay, that's a good use for Zanzibar.
If you
Good
get to the
use for
back.
Zanzibar. And DJ Rhino, I'm gonna let you have the last word.
Tomorrow, of course, I'm still doing it. New Year's Day, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be on twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ at 3 p.m. for the shake up with CMZ at 3. I'm gonna be doing all vinyl. So I'm gonna be digging in these crates behind me. So I'm gonna be doing
Who
that.
you spotlighting? Are you spotlighting anybody?
Not spotlighting anybody in particular.
Just
Tomorrow.
wilding out.
I'm
It's
just
a
gonna
new
be
year.
digging in the crates, getting my fingers dirty, and I'm gonna be all over the place with it. So
Miss
it's gonna be
Records.
kind of
I
fun.
swear to God,
All right,
yeah.
cool. Well, thank you
Oh,
so much.
also, big ups to Jay-Z, LL Cool J, Jadakiss, Nas, Ralph McDaniels. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to big up some of the people that made noise this year.
Good,
You know what I'm
good
saying?
year,
All right.
good stuff.
That sounds good. All right, thank you. And
Shout out to
Happy New
all
Year.
politics and local. Ed, your queen. We just shout out to us that we reimagined this show and we kept it moving and we've still had a powerful year in spite of.
All right. And hopefully 2022 will be even more powerful. Good night and Happy New Year.
Peace. Happy New Year.